It's lunchtime, and this is Brad Anderson's Lunch Break. If you work with technology, you've probably been to more than a few conferences in Orlando. When I got invited to speak at Citrix Synergy, I booked a flight and called a few really smart people to meet up for lunch.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What's your most embarrassing moment at work?
My most embarrassing moment at work.
Bonus points if it's at Microsoft.
Yeah, have you met Ben, my comms manager?
I have. You know, he looks a lot like
Ben Affleck.
Yes. As soon as he came up to me, I was like, oh my God.
You know what? We have actually been in places like in New York City getting dinner, and people are pointing, and you can say, you can see them mouthing the words.
I just want to hang out with him just to see that.
Back in November, we were walking into Shake Shack, and you know, the one there by Times Square has got like a security guard out front, and he literally asked.
I would say yes. If I were Ben and people asked me if I was, I'd be like, yeah, that's me. What do you want me to sign?
So we're walking into Shake Shack, and the security guard asked Ben if he's Ben Affleck, and if I'm Bruce Willis.
I was gonna say, if I had to pick, I would have said Bruce Willis. And you guys both should have said yes.
No, we told we were in town filming a movie. Fujitsu has been a pioneer in a lot of software and hardware for years. They have 94,000 patents.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think the next big piece of technology that's going to be a part of our daily lives, how we work in 5 years?
So I don't think it's going to be one thing. I think there's a lot of technology that has been promising, you know, to revolutionize the world for about 5 years. So all of the new capabilities are there, but the things that are going to really make a difference is AI.
Yeah.
As that comes in and starts to give us the ability to gain new insight from data and the Internet of Things, all the sensors, everything being connected. Yeah. Those two things together.
Yeah, because they actually
and then
work
the
together.
Analytics. Yeah. So each one in isolation isn't as relevant, but joined together, that really has the capability.
That's an example that you could never do without the power and the capability that the cloud brings.
Yeah.
Because, you know, AI and all these things, it really is processing over an incredible amount of data. The amount of compute that you have to have in order to do that, you need to be able to spin that up and spin that down on demand.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us a little bit more about your role then.
When I started, I was the very first employee. I often make the joke, you don't know what it's like to have nothing until you have nothing. I showed up and I'm like, we really need to do it. And I looked around, I'm like, oh, it's me, right? But then I worked really quickly to hire a small staff. The first one was my information security officer. I knew if we were going to do this, we'd have to layer security and be smart about it up front.
And right there it says so much about what the priority of that role and that work is.
Oh, absolutely. And it took me a while to find one that was very creative. A lot of them came in and said, well, that doesn't seem safe. You're looking for someone who is as passionate about what you want to do as you are.
Wow.
There was a few times I looked at the team and I said, maybe we shouldn't do this. And they're like, no, we're doing it. We just got to think how we're going to make it work.
I saw something that you wrote about how, you know, multiple companies are battling for the same talent. There's a fixed amount of talent, especially in areas like security.
Yeah.
So what are the things that you would advise leaders to do to retain their talent? And, you know, like you say, not only make them want to come into work, but make them excited to come into work.
The talent battle used to always be either about your direct competitor or about somebody that is next door to you. But today, Microsoft is in a war for talent against Nestle. You're in a war for talent against Ford, against Uber, against like everybody.
Yep, it's global.
Yeah, so you're not just competing against your direct competition, you're not competing against just whoever's next door, you're competing against everybody. So it's a very different way to think about talent challenges.
So also there's an article in Forbes about companies that are all cloud and, you know, in these enterprise organizations. And you were like the primary voice throughout this article. When you were evaluating the direction you were going to go in the cloud, what was it that you were looking for?
You know, I had a greenfield of technology, and I took that as a responsibility. I could go safe, but why would you build stuff you know that you're going to have to be replacing very soon? So I thought, as a responsibility of the organization that hired me, be as tech forward as possible. Had already done a lot of research on the different clouds and what was safe, what wasn't, FedRAMP certification. Not everyone talks about that. So I'd already known that. And I knew it would give us a lot more flexibility. I did think it was an infrastructure play at that time, and I realized it's a lot more than that.
So the technology that we're using is changing at a rate that is incredibly fast. So is it better to be looking for subject matter experts or people who are good at learning fast?
People that are good at learning fast. Knowledge to me is the biggest commodity in the world, because to be a subject matter expert, all you need is a phone. Right? Anything I ask you right now, you can look up and just give me back information on. And there are people that, you know, they remodel their house by watching YouTube videos, they pave their driveways, they disassemble computers. So knowledge is a commodity, it's everywhere. If you can learn quickly and apply those things to new scenarios and environments, I think that's kind of the best way to go about it.
So I would agree, it's about who can learn fast. You know, you want to have those individuals who have that curiosity.
Yeah.
You know, because there's some people who would be terrified to go do like remodel a house, and other people like just jump in because they like to take risks, they like to learn. So it's the ability to learn and the love of learning.
Yeah, totally.
You know, we're here at the Citrix Synergy conference that Microsoft and Citrix are doing together. You know, what we see here is organizations want to be able to build and apply policy based upon risk vectors of identity, device, applications, the physical location, but they also then want to couple that to make sure that the app or the data is delivered in the most appropriate way.
So true.
And that's actually one of the visions that Microsoft and Citrix have together is, you know, we've got all this data both companies do around different security, and, you know, we have sensors sending us in telemetry and signal all over the place. Citrix has also done some interesting work where they can understand the user's working environment, how much bandwidth do they have, and then, you know, between the two of us, you can see how we can make sure that the data is all secure, the user is given a great experience, and the user is given that experience in the way that's appropriate given the variables of their environment.
Because I think that is fascinating, right? All the information put together with what Microsoft can do, whether it be for machine learning, for example, right? Now gives better insights, and people can make better business decisions and security decisions at the end of the day. It's that simple.